Good evening, Broncos fans. Welcome to the Orange and Blue View, another Saturday edition on this Easter weekend. So, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. I'm Thomas Hall, and this is Ron White, my co-host. And welcome. So, how you doing, Ron? How are things going?
Things are going well. It was a rainy day here in Atlanta, and the temperature dropped, but so far so good.
Yeah.
As far as Easter's concerned. And again, I hope everyone else is having a lovely Easter weekend so far.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of a slow week for Broncos news this week. We're not hearing a whole lot. We got some comments from Sean Payton, who's out was out golfing and talking to people, which was actually pretty interesting to me. We got Tim Patrick. He's out there talking the way I like it. It just seems like a really different vibe coming from Broncos country this year, and hopefully that translates to the field for sure. But so yeah, let's talk a little bit about. Well, let's see who we got in the chat. There's a bunch of people that were here early. We got Mike S is coming in already saying what's up, Thomas, Ron, Dylan, Scott, and Broncos country. So Mike S, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. We got some people that were
Welcome, I
in
guess.
bright and early. Not really. I mean, well, early, but not bright. I guess we got David McGilrath coming in. Thank you so much, David. Good evening, Broncos country. Thomas, Ron, Dylan, and Deacon Scott. Buckham times two, and Mile High Huddle for Life, Denver Broncos for life. Well, thank you guys for coming in this evening. We appreciate it. I'm sure there's more we'll get to. Plenty of comments, plenty of people coming in. Carol Allen's coming in saying, "Hey, Broncos country." So thank you for that, Carol.
Hey, Carol.
So, so what's going on now? Tell us first of all. Let's jump into the Tim Patrick stuff, Ron. What did Tim Patrick say, and why should we like it or not like it?
Yeah, so Tim Patrick was on an interview a few days ago with Broncos Avenue, just kind of going over his thoughts on uh, a whole host of issues. I think he talked about the motivation to play, Demarius Thomas, the bond with Russell Wilson, um, and then his grandmother's impact. But more notably is the piece about how he feels on our division rivals. And I want to quote here, direct quote from Tim Patrick. He says, regarding the Chiefs and the Raiders, I don't like either of them, honestly. They both do it in different ways. The Chiefs do it in a cocky way. They have every right to be cocky, but to be cocky and not good rubs me the wrong way. I'm not a fan of the Raiders. The Chiefs are cocky little bleeps. So, based on that, Tim Patrick definitely has some strong opinions about our division rivals. And I think most people can agree with him and see where he's coming from. Obviously, we know the Chiefs are the cream of the crop, not only for the AFC West or the AFC, but the entire NFL, right? The defending Super Bowl champions. So, in that regard, with Andy Reid and with Patrick Mahomes, right, they have every right. It's kind of justified to be cocky in a way. But the other portion of the quote, Thomas, is it's where it's a bit funny where he mentions the other portion of that, which kind of belongs to the Raiders of they're cocky but not good. And I know they've had our number recently, but they haven't been good overall in quite some time. I think 1984 was the last time the Raiders won something. So he does have a point. To be cocky and not good does definitely rub people the wrong way, and it would piss you off, as a player. So there were some strong words there from Tim Patrick, and we hope, based on the interview that he's had, he's met with Sean Payton and other coaches, and he does get this feeling, this sense that, the energy is different. So hopefully this would rejuvenate this, not only Tim Patrick, but this entire team to play better. But at the same time, we hope that this does not be bulletin board material, right, as they go into the season for those teams that play better. So.
Well, let's just face it. I mean, it's off season. You got to talk a little bit, but they need to go out and walk the walk now. I mean,
Yes.
it's been several years since the Broncos have really been relevant. So let's hope that translates to wins on the field, a little bit more confidence. But I'll tell you the feeling around Dove Valley and the Broncos headquarters is different, I'll say,
Mhm.
than last
Yeah.
season. So we got Chris Chances coming in with the super chat. We really appreciate the support. Thank you so much for being here on Saturday, talking a little Broncos. Let us know your thoughts. A great, nice comment. Thank you so much for saying it. Thomas and Ron, still the best in the business. Well, appreciate that and
Thank you,
appreciate
Chris.
the support. Thank you so much for being here and let us know what your thoughts are on Timmy P. We got Dominique coming in saying, "Hey, Broncos family, as a Broncos fan, I got your back, Timmy P. We don't like them either. I hope you guys go beat them, though. Orange and blue view for life. Go Broncos." Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, it's great to have Tim Patrick out there talking about that. But the thing is the Chiefs have beat the Broncos quite handily over the last several years. They haven't beat the Broncos haven't beat them in 14 games. It is time for a change. I'm glad that there's a little bit more confidence, but I would really like to see some wins start happening before there's some trash talking. But whatever. I mean, people can say whatever they want. Fine with me. I don't really care. But I do like the difference between the attitude now already than last year. I mean, last year there was no passion for the rivalry. There was no talk about how they hated the Raiders or they want to break the losing streak to the Chiefs. It was more kind of blah, and that seemed to play out on the field a little bit too much. So this year, I think it's changed, and that's always a good thing. And hopefully, like my guest says, that Patrick can back up his words. And let's face it, Tim Patrick has went out there and played considerably well for
Mhm.
his, he didn't come in with a big draft pedigree or anything like that. He worked his butt off to get where he was. So for me, if he wants to go out there and chirp a little bit, he's earned it. Even though he didn't play last year because he hurt himself. But you know what? That's cool with me. I'm fine. But the comment that I really like, I think, is the Sean Payton comment when he's out on the golf course. I mean, it's kind of weird to say it out on the golf course because he's out there having fun, but he says it's going to be different. People are going to work harder. The offseason is going to be, roll your sleeves up and go to work type of thing. And I like that too. I want no nonsense. I want somebody to come in and make these players better and put them in position to win. And I think that's what we're looking at. So, I mean, how do you feel about that comment from Sean Payton?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that comment there, Thomas. But kind of going back to Dominique's comment again. Thank you, Dominique. The proof has to be on in the pudding, right? We have to, or the Broncos have to get more wins. They have to stack up these wins, and the more wins we stack up, we can be right there with the Chiefs, right? We can reclaim that throne in the AFC, but it's going to start with wins. And
Yeah.
you're right. With the Sean Payton comment, that's absolutely correct. I agree that it's going to be more of a, everyone's going to be held accountable. There's, everybody could roll their sleeves up and start working. And that's what we've been missing all of these years, Thomas, to a more competent head coach to hold these players accountable. Now, he will get you out there energized, ready to play, but if there are problems, issues with players, if the offense isn't, working as it should be, expect to hear it from Sean Payton and expect, some adjustments. But I agree 100%.
Yeah, no nonsense is what I've been looking for a while. I
Yes.
think there's been a lot of incompetence. I mean, I'm sorry. I know Vance Joseph is now the defensive coordinator, but he was incompetent as a head coach.
Yeah.
Fangio didn't have what it took to get everybody together, kind of old school. People rub people the wrong way, and then the disaster of Hackett. This is a different story. I mean, Sean, regardless of what the makeup is of the team, Sean Payton's going to have him ready to play. And that's what I like. So let's have a little chip on the shoulder. I mean, the fact is the Broncos nearly beat the Chiefs this year. I think it was a bad call away from beating the Chiefs to break that streak. And that's with a lot of injuries. That's with, not everybody playing well. people not on the same page. So I think that coming out and saying that it's time to really go out there and make some noise in the AFC West is a good thing. I'm ready for it. But again, I was ready for it last year, got my hopes up, and didn't happen. So let's go out there and make it happen on the field. But I'm looking forward to seeing training camp. I'm looking forward to seeing if it's different. Then I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot different based on what Sean Payton said. There's going to be more hitting in practice. There's going to be more. It's going to be it's not going to be a lot of fun and playing around. It's going to be work. And that's what it takes to really get better in the NFL. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So hopefully I'll see that in training camp this year, because I'm going to be there for hopefully for a week. We'll see. That'd be great.
Yeah. That'd be great.
And we got Mike S coming back in.
Coming in here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. He says, just don't trust Vance Joseph or the defense. And Mike, that's a valid concern. I agree to an extent of, his defenses leave a lot to be desired. We saw it when he was the coach of the Denver Broncos. We saw it even in Miami, even going back even before Denver, that, the rankings just weren't there. A lot of things are more so predicated on getting home that pass rush. So that might be a different tale for the Broncos, right, with the pass rush. But last year or the past few years, Arizona, it left a lot to be desired. And, with different players, we will see exactly how this unfolds. I know we have a few question marks at edge, right? There might be some concerns there, and obviously on the D line too. But I can see, because the defense is a little bit better, or a lot better, I should say, with the Broncos. The players are better, so I should expect this defense to at least be solid and good. But that concern is there just based on what he's done. So it's more of I think for me, Thomas, it's more of I guess let's just wait and see, right? Once training camp comes in, once he gets his defense installed, let's see how it all plays out. But it is a valid concern, Mike. I definitely do agree with you there.
I think if health holds out, you look at what they were doing early in the season, last season, they had a great defense. The Broncos have lost a couple people. I mean, Draymond Jones left, but they replaced him. There's some differences, but if they can stay healthy, they're going to have a solid defense, even if Vance Joseph wasn't as good at putting people in positions to succeed as Evero was. They're still going to have a solid defense, but the difference is going to be they're going to look worse in my mind, because I think the offense is going to play better. So the offense is going to score more. So the opposing offense is going to take more chances. They're probably going to score a little more points. So they probably won't look as good on paper, but they're still a solid defense. I mean, you can't overlook the talent that's out there. They what they were doing, and even what they were able to do late in the year after injuries decimated them. I think they got plenty of talent on the defense. But I agree with you, Mike. I do distrust Vance Joseph led defense a little bit, but I think he's going to have talent to work with this year. I think they need to bring in somebody else on the defensive line, a more experienced person into the rotation, which would be beneficial. But I don't have too many doubts in their secondary if they can stay healthy. I like it. The linebacking core is same as it was last year, but going to have more time with Singleton, playing with Jewell, hopefully, if they stay healthy. It's really the defensive line and the health of the edge that's going to determine how good that defense is. And that's the only question mark in my mind. But we got Big Earn coming in saying, hello, Thomas and Ron, go Broncos country only. Absolutely. Only Broncos. And that's what we're talking about. Tim Patrick's coming out, throwing out some shade, I guess you'd say, with the AFC West. So dang right.
Thanks,
and Roy Osborne's coming in as well from Facebook. Thank you both for coming in. Roy says, good evening, Thomas, Ron, and Scott. For Tim Patrick, he better put up or shut up. It's going to be go time. It's true. I mean, if you're going to come out and talk it, you got to go out there and back it up. But really, what do you think? You heard my thoughts on Tim Patrick. Is he going to be able to come out and back it up even after he missed the season with ACL injury?
I think so. I'm not worried about Timmy P coming in and picking up really where he left off. Right. The bond with Russ is there. There's going to be maybe a few games for him to kind of really get going. But I think once all that the dust settles, I see him being that possession receiver, being that dynamic playmaker that he is coming in. So, you know, based on how Timmy P has played, of course, not last year withstanding, he has a right to make these comments, right? Because it's somewhat justified. He goes out there, he produces. It's more of how is this team going to play, right? How is Russ going to play? How is the offensive line going to hold up, right? Obviously we know with Sean Payton that the scheme is in place, the competency at coaching is there, but how will everything look on paper once we put these players on the field and start playing these real games? How will it look? And that's where, I'm always telling everyone, be cautiously optimistic, because we've been burned before that, this team is ready to go and complete, ready for the playoffs. But I think it's a little bit more warranted now because we have Sean Payton, but we still need to wait and see how this team performs. But again, I think Timmy P is preaching to the choir, and he feels the same way all these Bronco fans feel, right? We just don't like the Chiefs or the Raiders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with him, the comments are justified. He's going to pick up where he left off, and I'm not concerned at all for him coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's face it, I mean, the Raiders have not gotten better. They've gotten worse. I mean,
worse.
We saw
Yeah.
McDaniels come out, doing the same thing he did in Denver. So, I mean, they're not going to be as good. I think the Broncos should be able to at least split with the Raiders this season, depending on, how the health holds out. I keep saying that, depending on the health. Phil McLaughlin in the house with Facebook Stars. Thank you so much for the support. We always appreciate, and we love seeing you here, Phil. So Phil says, good evening, Thomas, Ron, and Deacon Scott. Have you guys run a mock draft yet? Go Broncos and buck them. Yeah, mock drafts are fun. I enjoy it. It's kind of fun to say what if and whatnot. I haven't really done too much mock drafting. I have been focused a lot on building the analytics piece of that draft calculator I built to kind of understand trade values, understand positional values. So I haven't been doing a ton of mock drafting. How about you, Ron? How's your mock drafting going so far?
Thanks, Phil. And as far as mock draft, not yet, Phil. I've been just kind of looking at some players, who may be able to, fit with the Broncos, who the Broncos see as a good fit. But I haven't really done a draft yet. But that is on the horizon, and hopefully here pretty soon, the next week or so, I can get a good stab at a first mock here going.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because the Broncos have been having visits. They've been bringing in some players who will probably fit around that third round. We just this week Luke Schoonmaker, tight end, coming in, which is interesting to me. Right, they're bringing in a tight end. I think they brought in more. They've actually had visits with more than one. I think Musgrave, or they're at least planning to. But Schoonmaker was this week, and that's interesting to me because the Broncos have a couple young tight ends that seem like they're, ready to kind of break out. I mean, Greg Dulcich, he has had a really solid rookie season. I like him. Alberto is, he hasn't really done a whole lot, but he was kind of in the doghouse early. So it's kind of weird that, they're putting so much emphasis on the tight end position when they have a couple players that look like they're, could really benefit from being in a Sean Payton offense. But Schoonmaker, he's an intriguing prospect. Really, he really is. So it's interesting, and I know they're doing their due diligence. You never know who's going to be there when they make that selection. He could be their target, or he could just be somebody they're doing due diligence on, hoping to find another young tight end. But it's interesting. It's interesting that they have two really good young tight ends. It seems, on paper, and then they're still out there looking to improve that area when. I think the hole really is at center, right? That's where they should be looking in. And if they really are truly thinking about shopping one of the wide receivers, which there have been rumors flying all over the place, back and forth about yes, no, they should be probably looking in that area. But they've kind of focused on the tight end quite a bit. So that's interesting to me, Ron. I don't know if it's interesting to you.
It is. It does interest me a bit. Obviously for depth, maybe, right? Bringing in tight end with these visits, maybe possibly drafting someone later in a later round. But it could also be possibly Albert O could be on the outs. Maybe not after this year, but maybe bring in someone after this year. Albert O's on the outs. Maybe bringing out someone to kind of supplant Albert O, possibly. As what I can think of as well. But it is interesting, Thomas, and what I was thinking the same thing as I saw those visits earlier. And they brought in running back as well. I think Sean Tucker out of Syracuse, or they're going to bring him in. I don't think they brought him in yet.
Yeah.
So running back is also a target that the Broncos are looking at. I think he's 5'10", 210 pounds. Had about 23 touchdowns over that 21 and 22 season there at Syracuse. So yeah, there are some intriguing prospects out there that the Broncos are looking at bringing in and possibly picking up in those later rounds. So we'll see.
Yeah, and they have to hit. I mean, they really do. That's been the problem with the Broncos over the last few years is they have not hit on their draft prospects, especially in the middle rounds. They've had a lot of duds that they may have let them go a little too early and they went somewhere else and played pretty well, or they just outright weren't a fit on the team. So this season and next season they really need to hit on some of those middle rounders, and it's don't get me wrong, the probabilities. I ran them there. It's hard to hit on them, but they really need to land it. David McIlrath, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. David says, Broncos country, I know we were excited about our season and we were deeply disappointed. Absolutely. I'm guilty of that for sure. Please trust in Sean Payton. He says he chose Vance Joseph. Yeah, it is true. We should. I mean, Sean Payton knows what he's doing, right? I mean, he's forgotten more about football than I'll ever knew. No, and I'm free to admit that for sure. No problem. But we also saw Vance Joseph firsthand as a Broncos fan on watching him on the sideline. He was not, he looked inept. So I hope you're right, David. I really, but it's, it's one of those, kind of things where you got kind of stung before and now you're waiting for that sting again kind of thing. And yeah, I hope you're right. I hope Vance Joseph kills it and they have a great defense.
Again, thanks, David, for your comment, your generosity. Much appreciated. And I agree, David, we have to trust Sean Payton. And I think we do, right? He knows football, but we've been burned before with Vance Joseph, right? To Thomas's point, and the indication that he's going to be good for the defensive side of the ball, I'm not sure, right? Just because of what we've seen at his previous stops. So we have to trust that Sean Payton tapped the right guy to do the job. Obviously, what is helping Vance Joseph is that the players on the defensive side of the ball are much better than what he had in Arizona. Obviously, bringing in Zach Allen on the defensive line. So there's some good things on this defense about this team that I think Vance Joseph can play with, can develop schemes for, right, to be successful. Because, again, it's already a good, solid defense. So, again, we're relying on Sean Payton's expertise with the talent to somewhat elevate Vance Joseph and make sure that the defense remains dominant.
Yeah. Gyla coming in. Gyla Maples with a super sticker, man. We appreciate the support. Thank you for being here. And don't forget, you won the jersey. So make sure you email milehighhuddle@gmail.com. If you haven't already, you won the jersey, do it. Get that jersey for yourself. That's awesome. Thank you for the support. Coming in with a good evening. Happy I caught you live. Well, we're happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I know it's tough on Saturday, right? Nobody wants to be here on Saturday night. We're out here trying to make it work and having a lot of fun doing it. But it does take a little bit of toll on the weekend plan, so to speak. But that's all right. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. Gary Palmer, the legends, coming in with a super chat, also saying, "Hey, Thomas and Ron, would you guys run a mock draft next week? I mean, go Broncos, Mile High Huddle for life." Well, I'm actually gonna do a mock draft article based on analytics. I try and do that once every year, just based on just letting the kind of analytics work. I'm not I'm not going to say that I went out and scouted 400 college prospects and that I know everything about them, but I do like to let the analytics kind of roll and see where it goes. And so I'm going to be doing that shortly. So I do it every year. So yeah, thank you for that, Gary. What about you, Ron? Are you anxious to get a couple mock drafts out there?
Yes, thanks, Gary. And I am anxious to restart running these mock drafts. So, yeah, Gary, we'll talk it over here, but and see kind of what the plan is for these mock drafts. But yeah, we should definitely have something for you probably by next week as we're getting into the draft starting. So yeah, definitely for sure.
And as you know, Gary, we have tons of writers, tons of people out there doing draft stuff. So go to milehighhuddle.com, check out the drafting, all the drafting stuff that's out there. We got a lot going out there. So yeah, we appreciate the support as always. So yeah, we'll definitely get in the mock drafts and yeah, don't forget to check out all of our stuff. I mean, Ron's on Twitter at Ron White NFL. I'm on Twitter, Thomas Hall NFL. Get Scout Kennedy on Twitter. He was there at the at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, he's got some firsthand knowledge of some of these kind of draft diamonds, hopefully, that we have. Luke Patterson was at Shrine and Senior Bowl. So we've got it covered for you, for sure. And we've got Phil McLaughlin coming back in from Facebook. Thank you. He says, I really think we need another cornerback. And I'm hoping we get someone like Cameron Young to help with the D-line. Any thoughts? I definitely have thoughts on that, for sure. D-line, I've been talking about needing some experience on D-line. I don't think they need to necessarily draft someone. I think they need to bring some solid experience in because, not only did the Broncos lose Draymond Jones, they replaced him, right? They replaced him with Zach Allen, which I think was a pretty good swap. I think I like Draymond a little bit better, but that's fine. But the other problem is we saw that Deshaun Williams, the other starter's gone. So who's going to replace them? They got two young rookies. They were later round picks. I understand, that they hoping that they pan out, but you've got, really the only other experienced person that you'd have on the other side right now is Mike Purcell. Now I like Mike Purcell a lot, but I think, there could stand to have one more kind of experienced guy in that rotation to kind of fill it out. And, usually, the young defensive linemen take a little while to develop. So grabbing a rookie is probably not going to be, super impactful this year. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards the, an experienced person. But as far as cornerback goes, I actually think the Broncos are fairly well set. I liked Amari Mathis. I think he really showed up towards the end of the year really well. He had a rough outing at the very start, but I think he's a really good cornerback. I think that they have, the best cornerback in the league on one side. They got a young up and coming cornerback on the other. You got a nickel cornerback in Williams, who's really, really good if he can stay healthy. And then they brought in some depth too. So Smith came in. I don't know. I don't know if they need to really go hard at cornerback in the draft. Ron, what do you say?
I actually agree with all the points you just made, Thomas. As far as the defensive line, that there's still, after Deshaun Williams, it's still, there's still holes, there's still concerns. I like we did the swap for Zach Allen to Draymond Jones, and I think that should help, as far as that inside pass rush. But for corner, I don't see the need for another one now. Looking at kind of how the roster is constructed, Patrick Surtain on one side with Damari Mathis. We saw Damari Mathis hold his own last year. Granted, he had to go through those growing pains, but he was able to come in and be a very good and solid corner. And so having him opposite of Surtain with K'Wan Williams, I think that's a formidable trio of corners for Denver. Now, maybe bringing in, we already brought in someone. I think he's also the punt returner. I think from Houston corner and punt returner that we brought in.
Kick returner, yeah, Tremon Smith. I think he's a kick returner. If I remember correctly, he did a little bit more kick returning than punt returning, but I think he can do both. Yep.
Both, yeah. So we brought him in, and maybe another one for that possibly, but I don't think it's as big of a need as it is on the defensive line. Defensive line is a much bigger need, at least in my opinion.
And I'm going to grab a comment sticking with the secondary. We've got Zebulon Omega. Kevin Lind is asking who's going to play safety across from Simmons, and he didn't expect to be a draft priority, but he think could be. And I think you're right. I think you're right only because they don't have any depth. I think they only have 4 safeties on the roster right now. I think so, maybe 5, but I think that I actually like Caden Stearns. I think he got hurt, and that kind of affected his play last year. But I think he's the starter beside Justin Simmons. I think they're going to be a good duo. I liked what he did as a rookie. I liked what he was doing when he came in until he got hurt. But then, you also have to look, you got PJ Locke. He was a solid depth player. And I kind of gave up on him early on, but he really worked hard, came back, made himself a pretty solid player for depth and a good special teams guy. But I like Turner Yell as well. I think it was a good draft choice. I think he's, needed some time to develop, but I think he has the skills to kind of become a good depth player and maybe potentially starter down the road if he continues that development. So I think they're solid, but you're right. I do believe they need to figure out more on the depth side of the situation. I think they've got the starters, but I think they need to plan a little bit for the future too, as well. So this might be a draft to snag another third round safety who kind of pans out like Justin Simmons did, or, Caden Stearns, a fifth rounder, Dylan Turner Yell, fifth rounder, maybe get somebody in those later rounds who develops, can play some depth and develop. So what do you think, Ron? I mean, how do you see the safety position kind of unfolding for the Broncos?
Yeah, I think you and I are sharing your brain here tonight, Thomas. I agree. It's opposite of Justin Simmons. My belief is Caden Stearns. Caden Stearns has shown what he can do. He's a very good complement to Simmons. Now, I will say after that, that's where the depth is concerning. Um, you mentioned Turner Yell, who I'm a big fan of. I saw some good glimpses last year from him, and maybe in the later rounds, maybe like a sixth or seventh rounder, you looking at safety to ensure that depth. But I think that the safety, as far as the starters are concerned, I think are kind of a lot, right? You re-sign PJ Locke, which I like that re-signing with some of the ones we already have on the depth, and maybe adding one wouldn't hurt. But I think at safety and corner, I think we're pretty much good. Depth is always going to be a concern, but as far as the starters and who we have, I think we're set.
Yep. And I think they've had good luck on the later rounds lately with safeties.
Yeah.
I actually think they gave up a little too early on Jamar Johnson. I kind of liked him too, a bit of a ball hawk, but they had a full room and he had to go. But I think they've had some pretty good luck. Got Naj coming in with a super chat. Man, we appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. We thank you so much. It's hard to put into words how we appreciate it, with the support that the people give us here. And they're always good comments too. I love reading. We keep saying that on Mile High Huddle podcast. I mean, the Broncos I think they have the most knowledgeable fan base, right? We've been passionate for a long time. We've been winners for a long time, and people like to learn and learn about football. So thank you, Naj, for coming in, saying, "Hey, brothers, saw the pic of Russell Wilson posted by his QB coach. Looks great, like he's lost 20 or 25 pounds. Clearly, he's on a mission to rebound from last year. Is there a speed back you guys like in the draft to help the O?" Well, I'm going to first start off and talk about Russell Wilson. I mean, there's no doubt he's a hard worker. I think he went down the wrong path last year. I don't think it was more about being lazy and getting overweight or whatever you want to call it. I don't think he was overweight. He looked pretty good. Just, he wanted to be more of a pocket passer, trying to take that beating and not care so much about, running around. So he was out working all the time. So I don't think it's a necessarily a work thing. I think he was in the wrong fit, wrong coach, all of that. But yes, you're right. He seems like he's kind of getting back to his old self, and that's a good thing, right? That means he's willing to be, flexible, go back to what worked for him and be the best he can be. And like I said, I'm predicting a bounce back season. I'm predicting one of his better seasons, and we'll see how it pans out. But I definitely think that he's a hard worker, and it's paying off. It's showing up in those pictures. If that's what he wants to be, a little more lean, a little more fast, I'm happy with it.
Okay, yeah, I agree. And then I'll actually take the other part of the speed back that we like in the draft. So there are three backs, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to get any of them, but I know the talk has been, I think, with John Robinson out of Texas. that's a very good back. I think he ran, it was under 4.5 as far as his 40 time. So that's definitely one that I like. And then Jamar Gibbs as well from Alabama. And then Devon Atkins, I believe. I'm out of Texas A&M, who could also be a really speedy receiver. I think he had also a good combine 40 as well. So those are three backs that I've been kind of looking at so far, Naj. But again, we'll see kind of where they play, where they pick in
Yeah,
the
and
draft.
they're going to need to bring somebody in for the running back position. They still are a little light, in
Yeah.
my opinion, on depth in there. A lot of inexperience. So it'd be nice to get somebody who could come in and kind of be that that speed back to Perrine's more power back and whatnot. So yeah, I think they got to go in a running back, but it's not. I know that people remember Terrell Davis being later. They remember some other running backs that got drafted later. It's still not easy to find one. If you look at the numbers, I wrote something about it. It's hard to find a productive back. There's a lot of them that don't pan out. Hopefully the Broncos can hit on somebody who can come in and really, be that second back or be able to take some of the load off of Perrine. Michael Ronquillo, the man, the myth, the legend, is here in the house.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you so much. Coming in from Facebook saying, good evening, Thomas Hall and Wright on Ron White on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos and Buckham. Great to see you, Michael. Thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And as always, we love the support that you give us and all of Mile High Huddle. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So like we were talking about some speed backs in there. I don't know if any of those guys are going to be there when the Broncos are ready to draft. I think to me, it's hard for me to say they should use a third round choice on a running back because they kind of have their lead back right now and they're hoping that Javonte Williams kind of returns. That's a big if, but if he does, I mean, that's two really solid backs in the backfield that they can have. So to say, oh, use a third when you have some of these other needs and future needs too. And number one, regardless of whether or not they think Lloyd Cushenberry is the future or is the starter this year, I doubt he's the future, and they need to make plans now because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, right? Very soon. So they really need to use that pick, one of those two picks, I think, on the third round on a center. And then they might want to bring in a D lineman, or if they think that they are going to trade a wide receiver. So it's hard to say they should just grab a third round running back. They're going to have to, kind of pick those from those backs, maybe in the fourth or fifth round in the running backs room and that's a risky proposition. It's a risky proposition anytime. I mean, to find a good player in that fourth or fifth or sixth round, it is a lot of luck, really. I mean, I know they do all their work. I mean, that's the thing. They have to put in all the work. You can't just watch some highlights and hope for the best. Yeah. You got to put in all the work, and that's what they do. But in the end, it's still hard to hit on those players, especially in the later rounds. They'd be happy to find a starter to come in and to fill in some of those roles, someone who could develop into a starter. So hopefully they get lucky. And I was talking about on Twitter today. It was funny. They were talking about the teams. I think it was like the late round gems, the best picks later rounds that they found, the steals of the draft. And I was talking about the Broncos been lucky. I mean, they've hit. I mean, Carl Mecklenburg was a 12th rounder. Terrell Davis, 6th rounder, Shannon Sharp, 7th rounder. I mean, there's been some really good late round picks, some Hall of Fame picks that the Broncos have landed. So, man, keep our fingers crossed that happens. But it's not easy. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and as far as that first pick, the third round of the Broncos, I'm with you, Thomas. It has to be from one of these three positions. Has center, someone or D lineman, and or edge. I still think edge is a concern here as well. So maybe depending on who's there, who falls, in that round at that pick, edge might be an option for the Broncos to look at. So, but yeah, definitely for running back, I don't see a running back being picked until fourth, maybe fifth. I would even say like a fifth round on a running back for the Denver Broncos. But yeah, those three positions for sure are more of the ones that are pressing more of a need for Denver than I would say the running back is.
Talk to me a little bit about why you think edge is high on the list. I mean, only because they drafted Benito, 2nd rounder. They went out and spent money on Gregory. They moved Browning. I know they traded Chubb, but why is edge so important?
Yeah, but Benito, I'm still not. I know it was only his rookie year, so we're still not sure Benito yet. I don't know if he'll be able to turn that corner. So
Gotcha.
you can't really rely on that. And then, knock on wood, we're praying that this team stays healthy.
Yep.
And obviously, we know with Randy Gregory, as dynamic as he is, he can't stay healthy. And
he's not on the field.
Baron Browning, he's on the field, right? And Baron Browning, you're right. Baron Browning has been great at edge. So I'm not so much concerned about Browning. It's just those former two that are a little bit concerned to me, given Gregory's injury history and the fact that Benito just, from what I saw, it just wasn't that good. Again, we're hoping that Benito can somewhat step up, but from what we saw, it wasn't that great for me.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you, Ron. Gregory he's not reliable. Just not reliable enough. He hasn't been on the field enough. They went out and spent the big money to get him. They traded Chubb. I think the cupboard is starting to get bare. Benito's, there's jury's going to be out on him next year and the following year. Browning, I liked a lot. The one name that I really think people should watch for next year, if he can actually stay healthy, is Christopher Allen. I think he might make some noise next year in training camp. You might see him get some playing time. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a position that needs to be addressed for the future and for depth, for sure, because of the lack of the ability of the players to stay on the field and contribute consistently. The best availability is availability, as they say. Phil McLaughlin coming in Facebook with a great question. Ryan Clady, man, I love Ryan Clady. He says, you guys think it's time Ryan Clady will make Ring of Fame soon? I think he's one of the best left tackles to play for the Broncos, close between him and Zimmerman to me. In my mind, Zimmerman is hands down one of the best left tackles to ever play the game. I mean, he's when you talk about the best left tackles, his name comes up. I mean, there's Munoz, there's a lot of other people, but he's in the mix. Ryan Clady, to me, I don't know if he'll make the Ring of Fame. I'm not sure about that. Ryan Clady was on a Hall of Fame trajectory for his career until he started getting hurt. That was the problem. He went out and tore up his knee playing, pickup basketball, which set him back a little bit. And he just kind of kept having those injuries. When he came out as a rookie, I think he gave up a half a sack as a rookie. And that was it. I mean, he was a great left tackle. I loved the pick when it happened. I think he was, I think he was on the Hall of Fame trajectory, and injuries kind of derailed the team. And he's one of my guys that when people say, what if, I said, what if Ryan Clady hadn't had those injuries? Would he be in the Hall of Fame? I think he was on the track, but I don't know if he'll get in the Ring of Fame. I'm not sure. What do you think, Ron? I mean, it's hard to get in the Ring of Fame, not as hard as getting into the Hall of Fame, right? But Ryan Clady spent what? I'll have to double check. I think he spent 8 seasons, had some very, very good ones.
Yeah, and I'm with you there, Thomas, as well. Again, thanks, Phil. You're right. Ryan Clady was definitely a great left tackle during the time with the Broncos. And then, later the injuries kind of derailed him. But I don't see, I just don't see Ring of Fame. Again, he was on that level. He was playing like a Ring of Fame and a Hall of Famer for sure. But I think later on in the career, things got a little challenging. I just don't see it either. Yeah. Again, I guess I don't know. Let's put it there. I'm not sure if he's going to make it or not.
I think there's other people that need to get into the Ring of Fame before Ryan Clady. I was around 7 seasons with the Broncos.
7. Okay.
All-Pro, second team in his rookie season. He was in the Offensive Rookie of the Year talk, got votes for that. Then an All-Pro and a Pro Bowl. And in all, he had 3 All-Pros and 4 Pro Bowls. But like I said, the injuries took its toll, and that was it for him. And it's unfortunate. So, I agree with you, man. I love Ryan Clady. I think he was on the track. We got Lawrence Rivera coming in, Facebook stars. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. He says, what up, guys? I'm super late. I was putting up a new trampoline for the kids Easter tomorrow. Put it on the resume. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. Sorry. We're just about ready to wind the show down, but it's great to see that you came in, Lawrence. We're always happy that you're here. And a trampoline, man, those are fun. It's one of those things where you get on them and you just have fun jumping around. So, man, that's awesome. I'm sure the kids are going to totally enjoy it. So thank you for coming in and being here with us tonight, even if it is late. We still appreciate it.
Yeah, they're going to love it. They probably won't want to get off tomorrow. So
one of those things, I remember when I was a kid, I never had a trampoline, but I got a jump rope. And I loved it. I mean, I got so, my calves were so sore the next day after jump roping so much that it was like hard to walk. So I imagine your kids are going to have so much fun. They're going to be sore and need to take a little break from the trampoline the following day. So yeah, appreciate it. All right. Well, I don't know about you, Ron. I'm ready. I'm anxious to get on to my Saturday night. Maybe we should just see if there's any more comments in the chat at all. But let's start to wind this down. Do you have any tidbits of information that maybe you want to share with our listeners before we kind of wrap it up?
No. So again, I would recommend if you guys have not tuned into the entire Tim Patrick interview with Broncos Avenue, please do. It's very good, very insightful. Again, he goes into quite a lot with, again, his motivation to play, the impact of his grandmother, and, Garrett Bowles trade rumors, his own trade rumors. So he definitely does give you some information there. And, just keep out on these visits, right? The top 30 visits as Broncos start to bring folks in, as we're gearing up toward the draft coming up here in a few weeks. We'll look at mocks, see who we think the Broncos should win, and go from there. But yeah. Oh, and Phil, we have a few coming in last minute here. Thank you, Phil. We appreciate you. As always, he asked, "Will we bring Murray back for a year?" That's a good question, Phil. I would, on a vet minimum 1 year deal, I would like to bring Murray back. What he did last year was good, and of course there's familiarity there with Sean Payton. So him with P Ryan, having more an established backfield would help. So I just don't know. I feel as though like if they wanted Murray back, they would already done it by now.
Yeah.
Right. And we're seeing, talks of these draft prospects coming in for visits. Obviously, I know we need to kind of shore up the backfield as much as we can, but that's pointing to possibly the Broncos not re-signing him. But I would like to have him back.
Well, let's face it. They picked him up late in the season last year, right? He's not been signed. Chances are, if something happens to their running back, to their starters or whatever, they can go out and grab him or somebody of his kind of caliber again. So maybe they're just kind of sitting back and waiting, seeing how the draft pans out, seeing how that goes, and then maybe they'll make a decision, closer to camp on Murray. But at this point, it looks like they don't have that much interest in bringing him back. Which, I mean, like I said, he might be available to be picked up, closer to training camp or even in the middle of the year if injuries happen. So, or somebody else. So yeah, I loved what he did. I mean, he played really well, especially coming in, late and doing what he did. So yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's interest. Carol is coming in to help close out the show. Caroline, thank you so much. Saying love Saturday with Ron and Thomas. Thanks. Well, we thank you, Carol. We thank you for the support. It was awesome.
Carol. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And we will close it out now. We got Michael coming in to kind of close it out. Great show tonight. Thomas Hall and Ron White on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos, buck 'em. And we got Mike also saying, great show, Thomas, Ron, Dylan Scott, and Broncos Country. So don't forget, as we're leaving, don't forget to check out milehighhuddle.com for some in-depth stuff. And, we're always out there on Twitter. Find us on Twitter. Talk to us. We'll definitely fill in the football needs, hopefully between Saturdays, if you really want to talk to us and get our thoughts. So thank you. With that, let's close out the show. Say, go Broncos to all you Broncos country out there. Have a great Easter. Ron, it was great being here with you again on Saturday, as always. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Thomas. Thanks everyone for tuning in.